it's time for the best coverage of the top stories in sports. The Sports Wrap with Jason Page starts now.
Great to have you with us on this Wednesday edition of the show. And boy, do we have a great one for you. We'll be joined by Patrick McEnroe a little later on. Does a great job with ESPN. He'll be on the TNT broadcast of the French Open. Walker Buehler wasn't around very long last night for the Mets and Red Sox game. Got tossed for arguing balls and strikes. Has us talking about the ABS system. We'll get into that. Odds and ends, a whole bunch more. But we've got a very special guest co-host hanging out with us for the hour today on the program. You may have heard of him. Chuck Todd hangs out with us on the show today for the entire hour. Formerly the host of Meet the Press, now the host of the Chuck Todd Cast, which you can go and download on all your favorite podcasting platforms. And Chuck Todd is hanging out with us for the hour today. First of all, Chuck, welcome. Congratulations on graduating to hanging out on Sports Wrap. We love this.
And you know, I'm sitting here having to promote other stuff. I got a YouTube channel. You can like and subscribe that. I'm learning to say these things. Like and subscribe, right? Give me the likes and subscribe.
God.
Got a weekly Substack column that's free. I'm not trying to charge people, and not another Substack to charge money. No, not yet. Yeah, no.
Not like Chris Saliza.
Take a look at that. But the beauty of not having a boss tell me what I can and can't say.
Yeah, it's a wonderful thing. Isn't it?
It is pretty liberating, and you know, it's a tough time in traditional media. So I'm glad to be not on the inside these days.
Yeah, I hear you. Kurt Helin's hanging out with us from Pro Basketball Talk at NBCSports.com.
But I love NBC Sports, Kurt.
Yeah.
Well, absolutely.
I will see what I appreciate, Chuck, is one of the best parts of my job is I work remote, and I found having your boss 3,000 miles away on the other coast is virtually ideal, really.
Yeah.
Kurt, do you have a Substack? You don't have a Substack, do you?
I do not have a Substack. Okay. I do so much writing for NBCSports.com. I don't really have time for my own life.
Fair enough. Yeah, that's understandable. I have a Substack. I abandoned it recently because I just don't have enough time because of everything I'm doing. All right. Let me ask you about, we're going to do a couple segments. We'll get to the Pacers and the Knicks. I got to ask you about last night's game between the Thunder and T-Wolves, game one of that Western Conference Finals series, where you see a first half where, granted, the T-Wolves go in at the half up 4. You have the ankle injury for Anthony Edwards. I don't know how much that played into the second half because he did not play well. He did not score in the fourth quarter. There was a huge foul disparity in this game. You've got a lot of people on the T-Wolves side crying foul with all the free throws that Shai Gilgeous-Alexander gets in this game. He did not shoot it particularly well, but he did get to the free throw line a lot. What did you make of this opening game between these two teams?
This was very much Oklahoma, for people who haven't watched during the season. This is what Oklahoma City plays like every night. Forcing 19 turnovers to become 31 points, running the other way. That's their MO. That is what they're going to do. And frankly, that's one of the turning points of this series. If Minnesota doesn't take care of the ball, it's going to be over fast. The other thing, and you started to talk about the fouls and the way they played. Look, Minnesota took 51 threes. They were not getting in the paint. They scored 20 points in the paint for the game. They got walled off inside, and Oklahoma City's defense all season long, best defense in the NBA, has been, hey, we're going to take away the paint. We're going to crowd you and try to force turnovers, and we are so long and so athletic and so smart in how we defend, we're just going to rush out at you and contest your threes and believe you can't beat us that way. And Minnesota did for a half, but they couldn't sustain it. And I think, honestly, Minnesota's going to have to find more than just Julius Randle. They're going to have a better Anthony Edwards game. They're going to have a lot of things go right because this is a tough matchup for them.
Is it just a bad? I mean, it's interesting. Like, take Rudy Gobert,
yeah,
who is one of these players that in some series, sometimes the matchup's amazing and you're like, this guy's awesome. And then there are other times. And look, I'll be honest, I thought this would be a good matchup for him. I thought he would, Chet's still too skinny. I thought he'd be able to muscle his way. I didn't see a very successful Rudy. You brought up Edwards and Randall. To me, that's table stakes. Isn't this Minnesota's entire series future on whether Gobert is a legitimate third guy?
You better hope not for their sake, just because this is a rough series for him. The problem he runs into, that when he's been played off the floor, including in the Olympics, it's when teams can go 5 out because he's not great in space.
He's
and
an athlete.
He's great when you can drop him back. And part of the reason Shea struggled yesterday, like just in pure shooting percentages, it's hard to shoot over him. He is still the best drop back, or as good as any drop back rim protector in the league. But Oklahoma City did 2 things last night. A, they can play Chet straight up. They couldn't do that against Denver because Jokic did punish them. You couldn't have Jokic against Chet was still 100 pounds at least.
It's like a man versus a child. It was like watching your, being a teenager trying to post up your dad.
Yeah, exactly.
You're not doing it.
Rudy doesn't really play that way. And the other thing they did last night, so they can play with Chet at the 5 and obviously space him out. And then they went small, and they got away with that obviously against Denver at points because between Dort and Caruso, they can kind of guard you. Even Jalen Williams, they can guard you with a smaller guy and believe they can get away with it. And the only time Rudy's really punished anybody was the Lakers. Frankly, it was the last time he really punished that Game 7 when he had, or not Game 7, Game 5, that closeout game where he was huge. He's capable if he's getting it going to the rim, but he's not a guy who creates for himself. And again, the challenge with Oklahoma City and more than any team left in the playoffs is they don't roll out a bad defender. Everybody they put on the floor can defend, and there's no it's going to be a challenge for Minnesota. There's nobody to hunt. I mean, he tried to hunt Chet early, but Chet's not bad, man. It's not going to be that easy to hunt Chet.
Yeah, and the foul trouble certainly early on was something that took him out of the game as well. Real quick, I mean, the way this postseason has been called, where you could be a lot more physical, and then, juxtapose that with last night where if you breathed on SGA, they were calling a foul. If they call it that way the whole series, the T-Wolves have no shot. They got to come out in Game 2, and I think Game 2 is the series. If they come out in Game 2 and it looks like Game 1, this thing could be over in 5.
There's a lot of people around the league who think that could be the case, honestly. Again, it's back to the matchups. And it's also back to that is what they did all year. SGA is great at drawing fouls. He's not as blatant as Harden.
That's what I thought of was Harden. It's exactly what I thought of was Harden.
But it's much the same. I can get there and make you make contact and draw the foul, and they're gonna have to call it. And I can get downhill into the paint and collapse you, and then we're gonna kick out the shooters. We're gonna do all this stuff. So it has been fantastic for that. Look, that's just what they do, and Minnesota's got to find a way to break that tradition.
All right, let's talk Knicks-Pacers on the other side with Kurt Helin of Pro Basketball Talk at NBC Sports. Don't go anywhere. Another segment with Kurt Helin of Pro Basketball Talk at NBCSports.com. Hangs out with us on the program. So what should we read into, if anything, Kurt, the Wednesday news? I guess what? Wednesday before Game 2 of Thunder T-Wolves, they're going to announce the MVP? Is that what I heard?
They've been waiting to do this. They didn't want to do it during... Look, Jokic is going to be 2, Shea's going to be 1, and they didn't want to do it during that series, so they've been holding it off. But it's also got to be on TNT, and it led to just all sorts of logistical stuff. So, yeah, they're coming down with MVP, but it's not going to be a shock there. Shea's going to win, and it's not going to be a huge margin, but he's going to handle it. It's going to be farther up front of Jokic than you would think.
Talk to me about Pacers and Knicks. Look, the odds makers are telling you it is a toss-up series. Give me the argument for one side versus the other in what is a toss-up series.
It is an absolute toss-up series. I think it goes 6, 7, right? The argument for Indiana is this. They are actually deeper, they are more athletic, and they are going to make the Knicks do something they haven't had to do yet, which is move their feet on defense and really space the floor. The Pacers running their pace that makes them so special isn't just getting out of transition, although they will certainly do that. It's in the half court. Detroit and Boston were kind of station to station, right? Jason Tatum drives it into the lane, but he kicks it out, and they're station to station. That is not Indiana. Indiana is ball movement, player movement. Everybody's flying around. Halliburton is a brilliant passer and passes not the simple pass. He's making 2 passes ahead, 3 passes. He's going to force them to really move their feet. And Indiana's very good. Their defense is better than you think. New York's got to be tougher. New York has to be a little more physical. They've got to dominate the glass. They're going to have to get a huge series from Towns, who was huge against them, the Pacers in the regular season. Brunson's got to be Brunson, and some other guys will step up. But it really is. Styles make fights, and this is a clash of styles. I think that's what's going to be most fun about this.
My nervousness about the Knicks, and even though I was raised to never root for a single New York team ever on anything, you always just my knee-jerk reaction. It is just
Is there a family bias there. We need to know that.
My father, my late father, just thought those New Yorkers think they're better than us. Screw all of New York, right?
Well,
it was always sort of that mindset. Yeah. But look, how do you not root for this Knick team? I think Jalen Brunson, I love the kid. I just, he's hard not. That said, this feels like a team that's going to run out of gas. Either they run out of gas in this series or they run out of gas against Oklahoma City. As a basketball fan, I think I want to see Indiana, Oklahoma City for everything you just said, because I think they match up better with Oklahoma City. If you want to see a 6-game NBA final rather than a sweep or a 5-game series, I think you want Indiana. If you're the NBA PR department, you want Knicks and whoever. I get that. But I just think the Knicks run out of gas here. Don't you? I mean, they went, already they've got a lot more miles on them in this playoffs than Indiana does.
And by the way, certainly not myself, because I would never debase myself like that. But certain members of the traveling NBA media who will be with the finals might prefer to be in New York to Indianapolis for a week.
I'm shocked. Yeah. Where's there? You mean that nonstop from Indianapolis to Oklahoma City that does not exist? Yeah.
I was about to ask, does that exist?
Yeah. Charles Barkley has a nonstop, but that's about it. Okay.
Yeah, exactly. Well, I'm not sure I get on his jet. I'll have to. Yeah. I think you're spot on with the Knicks. Their lack of depth does come back to haunt them at some point, especially the series now, the end of last series and this one. Every other day. There is no let up. There's no break now. It's every other game until the finals. And the depth of Indianapolis really helps here. Indiana really they've got more guys they can go to and more guys they can trust. And you're going to have to play Towns and Brunson and all these guys 40 minutes a night. And I think that does catch up with them a little bit by the end of the series. I still think, though, the one thing that they've got that they didn't have during the regular season is Mitchell Robinson. He's really changed them in terms of offensive boards and their defense in the paint. Halliburton's going to get into the lane and run into a real quality rim protecting defender. They're going to have to get as much out of Mitchell Robinson as they can, and he's got to have a big series too.
You think they continue employing the hack of Mitch in this series, given the fact that towards the back end of that series we saw him make some free throws? Does Rick Carlisle do that?
I'm really curious to see. I think he might pull it out now and again. But I love the way Tibbs played that, which was, even if he's missing him, I'm just going to get my team in the bonus, and then I'm going to pull him. And once we're in the bonus, I'm going to let Brunson go downhill and isolate Towns and do these kind of things that draw fouls, do their own foul drawing, a la Shea, and get a bunch of free throws. So I'm not sure you're going to see it. I didn't think it worked great against them last series. I'm not sure Rick's going to go to it much, but he's a smarter coach than I, and obviously, and he's gonna. I think he'd be willing to try it, but I don't think he's gonna live like Tibbs did.
Which franchise has more at stake in this series, Kurt?
Ooh, that's a really good question. That's because they both. It's been so long, and I feel like. That's a really good question. I will say Indianapolis only because I don't think everybody believes in them yet, right? I don't know that people love the Knicks. It's easy to root for the Knicks. It's easy to root for Jalen Brunson he's not much taller than me. How is he getting out there and doing this amongst all the trees? And I don't know that the respect is there for Indianapolis. They're not on national television as much. Halliburton, I don't know if you've heard, he's the most overrated player in the league. On and on down the line.
This is almost, Kurt, this is almost identical to the conversations that used to be had around Reggie Miller's Indiana Pacers. It was almost the identical conversation. Is Reggie Miller an elite talent? Can he carry a team to the finals? He did get him to the finals once. Now they got their butts handed to him pretty fast, but he was always sort of a player in the conference finals. I mean, I mean, I get it. The Pacers, it's funny. I don't know whether it is just the city of Indianapolis brings out that kind of sports analysis, or it's just that Indiana doesn't have, they need one more guy outside of Tyrese.
Yeah, and Tyrese is relatively a quiet superstar who, hey, look, he got his Olympic medal, but played less than anybody else. It's just kind of, it's again, situational for him sometimes, but he's great on this roster. But I don't, they can show some Reggie Miller highlights, just lots of Rick Smith's highlights. We just need
Jason, I've already made money on Tyrese Halliburton rookie cards. Just so you know.
I didn't know you collected basketball cards. Hey, Kurt,
it was more of an investment. I bought them knowing that he was sort of undervalued. And I've already made a couple bucks.
There you go. Good. Kurt, always appreciate you, my friend. Let's enjoy the Knicks and Pacers. I'll say Knicks in 6 because it has the best betting value. Thank you, my friend.
I have the Knicks in 7 officially, and unfortunately for you, I'm wrong a lot. So we'll see what happens.
Oh, boy. Thanks, Kurt.
Take care, man.
We're coming back. We welcome you back to this Wednesday edition of SportsWrap. Conversation continues, and I was just joking off the air with these guys that if somebody had told me 10 years ago that I would be doing a nationally syndicated sports television show, and one of the segments, or even two of the segments in this case, would have Patrick McEnroe and Chuck Todd doing a segment with me together, I'd have you urinating into a cup, because none of this makes sense to me. But here we are. On this Wednesday edition of the show.
Jason.
It is. It's the beginning. It's the three guys, Chuck Todd and Patrick McEnroe, walk into a bar, and Jason Page is there. So we're all just hanging out in this virtual sandbox, I guess you could say, talking about sports. And Patrick McEnroe, of course, does a great job with the tennis, ESPN, and TNT/True TV, where you'll be able to catch him for the French Open. He's getting ready to head over to Paris to go and cover that. And we'll talk with a little bit of tennis here, and we'll do a little bit of baseball, maybe a little bit of basketball in the next segment. All right, so I got some grief from people on social media this weekend because on Sunday I was like, best sports Sunday in a while, PGA Championship final round, 2 Game 7s, Yankees, Mets, boom. I put out the post, and somebody writes me back and goes, what about Sinner Alcaraz?
Exactly. Yeah.
I forgot about Sinner Alcaraz. Give it to me.
First of all, it's great to be back on with you. Great to see you, Chuck. We've never met in person, but I've always been a huge fan of what you do. So great to have you in the sports world a little bit. Jason and I like to think we're political experts, so we understand why you're here.
I went to Roland Garros once, so I'm an expert at the French Open.
I'm looking forward to going back. I'm on my way there in a few hours. But Sinner Alcaraz, this is like the big two have taken over. We had the big three for the last 15, 20 years in men's pro tennis with Djokovic, obviously, who's still hanging around. Nadal and Federer are both now retired in the last couple of years. And so many thought this was going to be sort of this wide open phase, a little bit like what happened after Sampras Agassi retired. And you had guys like Andy Roddick winning a major. You had Leighton Hewitt. You had Marat Safin. And then all of a sudden Roger Federer showed up, and that ended. And then Nadal, Djokovic right behind him. But these guys didn't waste any time. Sinner and Alcaraz, guys, have won the last 5 majors. That have been played. So for guys like Alexander Zverev, Stefano Tsitsipas, Daniil Medvedev, who snuck in 1 major, he did win 1 major. It looks like the time has come and gone for them when it comes to being able to win majors, because these two guys look like they're going to have a stranglehold on men's pro tennis at the highest level in the next decade or so. Some other good younger players coming up that I think could crash the party. Jack Draper being one of them, the Englishman. Holger Rune, maybe he can make a push. He's back in the top 10. João Fonseca from Brazil, who's only 18, who I really like. I actually think he's the kid that's got the best chance in the next 5 years or so to break through and win some majors along these two big two.
Hey, let me get parochial. Francis Tiafoe. I'm a DC guy. My nephew's close with he's really popular locally. We really root for him around here. And it's, that US Open run that he had, it was really exciting. Is he ever, it feels like, and you see this with tennis players, right? You have great semifinal careers, right? Yep. Guys that can get to the semis, never seem to be able to make it to that one, whatever that mythical line is. They can't get there. Is he going to break this? Is he going to break through that ceiling?
Probably not, and that's a harsh reality of tennis.
Well, he's 27, which is like 50 in tennis. Right?
Yeah, exactly. And you've got him, you've got Taylor Fritz, you've got Tommy Paul, Ben Shelton, who's a little bit younger, who has burst onto the scene. They're all hovering, Chuck, in that, Fritz is the highest ranked. He's right around the top 5. But basically the other guys sort of between 10 and 20, they hover in that range. And because tennis is so individual, right? And it's much different from golf. You go to, obviously Scheffler just won the PGA, Rory won the Masters. But for the most part, when you start a major in golf, let me ask you this. How many players do you think have a chance to win the tournament?
Oh, in a major, you feel like there's 30 or 40.
Exactly. Right. In tennis, there's 2.
Yeah.
Or maybe 3, maybe 4. Okay. And that's
if
just
somebody gets hurt, man, you add
things
a couple
break.
more,
If
right?
things break right, somebody gets knocked off early. Yeah.
Right. But because it's like the one-on-one, whereas golf, you're just playing the course, right? It's just, it's a whole different animal. And then when you get these players that are so good, women's tennis has had a potpourri of winners, over the course of the last 10 years. It's more spread out. Hasn't been the dominant players. Serena, since Serena left, Iga Swiatek's been dominant on clay. She's struggling now. Sabalenka, she's number 1. But on the men's side, it just seems like if you get to that place where you're a Sinner or Alcaraz, to beat those guys in best of 5 in a major is unbelievably difficult. So I love Francis. You're right. He captivates the crowd wherever he plays. He's exciting. But does he have enough to get over the finish line to beat those guys? Probably not.
Swiatek, the biggest challenger there for Sabalenka out there at Roland Garros?
Swiatek's interesting because she's dominated the French Open she's won 4 of the last 5, I believe there. She's won 4 of her 5 at Roland Garros, and she's won 1 other major as well, the U.S. Open. But she's been really poor this year. She's had some issues. I think mostly mental issues, meaning like just her focus, her concentration. She's so wound up. She got that, she tested positive for a drug at the end of last year. She got cleared of that, saying it was contaminated melatonin or something she was taking from some place in Poland. So she got cleared. But since that happened, she hasn't been the same player. And normally when she gets to the clay, she starts to dominate. And that hasn't happened this year. But by the way, she's still the odds-on favorite. I checked the odds yesterday. Alcaraz the favorite on the men's side, Sinner right behind him, and then a huge gap. And it's not Djokovic, the third favorite. It's Zverev. Then it's Djokovic at 4. But Swiatek's still the favorite over Sabalenka. The other players to look out for, Jason, Mir Andreeva, who's a young Russian, the 18-year-old, who's kind of burst on.
How about Paulini?
Paulini's a good one. She just won Rome. She could win it. She was in the final last year, definitely. Coco. The issue for Coco Gauff is the serve, because the serve under pressure can break down at any moment, where she could throw in 3-4 doubles a game. And that is the X factor for her, because you talk about the athleticism, the physicality, the speed, the game off the ground. All those things are dialed in for Coco to win in Paris. But if the serve goes off, and unfortunately it seems like it could still happen at any time, despite her tinkering with the motion and tinkering with the technique, that's still the bugaboo that she has in her game, that in a big match, when the pressure's at the greatest, she can falter because of that serve.
All right, let's come back. We got another segment to do with Patrick McEnroe, who's hanging out with us from ESPN. You'll see him on the TNT broadcast as well. He also has the SiriusXM radio show, which you can catch Sunday mornings?
Saturday morning,
7 a.m. Eastern. I almost got it right. He's going to hang out with us for one more segment. Don't go anywhere. Lots more to do on SportsWrap. Let's take it to segment 4 on this Wednesday edition of SportsWrap. Coming up in 10 minutes, Walker Buehler gets tossed from the Red Sox-Mets game. Has us talking about ABS. Speaking of baseball, Patrick McEnroe is hanging out with us. He's also the president of the International Tennis Hall of Fame, in addition to being a commentator for ESPN on the tennis side, TNT. You'll see him on the French Open, and he hosts a radio show on Saturday mornings over on SiriusXM Radio, Mad Dog Radio 123, right?
Mad
7
Dog
a.m.
Radio Channel 82.
Oh, it's 82 now? Sorry.
Yeah, my
80.
show's called Holding Court. And
There you go.
if you have the app, you can listen to it anytime.
Yes,
So you don't have,
because
you don't have to
the
get
app,
up
you
at
don't
7
have to
a.m.
be in a car. You don't have to be in your car.
Why don't you have the app at this point? You have to have
Got
it.
to.
Yeah,
You have to.
everybody,
Yeah.
everybody's
Yeah.
listening.
Or
on
go
it.
into
Yeah.
your garage and turn your car on and listen. Like, who wants to do that at 7 o'clock?
Right.
Exactly.
Thank you, Chuck.
So let's talk baseball. You're a Mets fan. Are you worried about Juan
No,
Soto
Yankees
yet?
fan. I'm a Yankees fan.
I thought you were a Mets fan.
You thought wrong. No, you thought wrong.
How is that
Yeah.
possible? I thought you were a Mets fan.
So, but if I were a Met fan, and I have a lot of friends who are Met fans, I'd be not too worried about Juan Soto. Okay?
All right.
Not worried.
I'm just
Not too
saying,
Look, I'm
not
a Soto
hustling out of
junkie.
the box. You got Carlos
Yeah.
Mendoza
Yeah.
says I'm going to talk to him. You got Michael Kay going on the radio saying he's bummed. He doesn't have any friends in the clubhouse. I'm just saying, a lot of flashing red
Guess
lights.
what? At the end of the year, Soto's going to have 330
Yep.
batting average, 35 to 40 home runs, and 110 RBIs, and a ridiculous on-base percentage. So
Hold
if
on. He is not going to have a 330 batting average at the end of
All
the
right,
year.
maybe it won't be 330, but it will be close to
Maybe
300.
310. Yeah, it'll be around 300. And he's going to get hot once the weather gets better. It's a
He
little-
always starts slow. He started slow
exactly.
here in Washington. He's a slow starter. I
All
promise you.
right. All right. I'm just saying.
But that being said, I was still happy the Yankees took 2 out of 3 from him in the Bronx.
And I mean, what we're seeing with it, can we just, for just a moment here, can we just take a moment and inhale what Aaron Judge is doing? I mean, because I don't think enough people are this is one of the best starts for the first 2 months of a season we have ever seen. Guys have hit 400 in the first 2 months of a season. Luis Ariz has done it. I mean, George Brett took it deep into a season one year. You know, Tony Gwynn took it deep the year of the strike, and we were robbed of potentially seeing him hit 400 the year, 94, 95 with the strike. But what Aaron Judge is doing as a power hitter, another home run last night for the this is out of this world stuff, guys.
Well, as you mentioned, all those other players you mentioned, I'm pretty sure were sort of singles hitters, right? Gwynn, George Brett, et cetera. And you're right. I mean, this is absolutely, and maybe Chuck, it's the Soto effect. Maybe Judge is like, in his own way, like, you know what? We got rid of this guy. Yeah. And
They
watch
say
what
he's
I
the
can
greatest hitter since Ted
do.
Williams.
So let's see what I
Watch
can
me.
do.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Who
do you
I
like?
like that theory.
Yeah, who
but
do you
I'll
like?
tell you, Judge Ohtani, if you're Major League Baseball, I was thinking about this. If you're Major League Baseball, you've got a PR problem. Boy, if Judge and Ohtani have a home run derby here, right? They're going back and forth with the lead. The Cubs are in first, the Mets are in first, the Yankees are in first, the Dodgers are in first. I mean,
How do you screw that up?
can't.
But they will. But baseball will.
Yeah, they'll find a way. But that's they've got to be feeling pretty good about themselves. You can feel the energy of Cubs fans right now. It's real. You feel it with Mets fans. I can't stand it, but I got a lot of Mets fans in my life. And the fact that Soto started slow and they're in first.
Right. Well, that's the interesting thing, too. I sort of compare what's happened in baseball a little bit to NCAA sports. I think you and I had spoken about this at one point, Jason. It's like, forget Cinderellas anymore. And it's similar in baseball.
Yeah.
Right. Because the big market teams, I mean, yes, somebody could sneak through that's in a smaller market, but to me, it's getting more and more unlikely in all those sports that you're going to see that happen. And, the bottom, purists say, oh, this is no good. It's not good for the tournament. Gonzaga's, I guess, sort of almost like a big time school, but smaller
tennis
school.
has the same issue, Patrick, right? Which is what's better? Having 2 or 3 dominant
stars,
guys,
right.
dominant women that you follow, or even one? Like, was women's tennis more popular when Serena was dominating, or at the moment when there's all sorts of great players?
Good point. It was certainly more popular in this country when Serena was dominating. Right. I'm not sure if it was the same in Europe because it's very European dominant, but overall, yes. When we get to the French Open now, most people on the men's side are going to say, let's get Sinner and Alcaraz in the final. That's the one that's going to move the needle. Zverev against Alcaraz, okay, I mean, it could be a great match. So Zverev could win, but that's what the casual fan wants to see. Right. Like me, I consider myself somewhat of a casual fan, and I don't follow NCAA basketball all year, but come tournament time, like I'm into it.
You want to see Duke?
Yeah, exactly. Well, that's because my daughter's there, but that's another story.
Well, this is why the Knicks are going to get every call for the rest of these playoffs.
So. Hey,
because their pet NBA is petrified of the Indiana-Oklahoma City
That's
NBA
true.
final.
That's a good point.
Let's be honest.
Yeah,
Real quick
that's true.
before I let you go, Knicks-Pacers, give me a prediction.
I think Knicks in 6.
All right.
I think, they'll be motivated after last year having the injuries. Pacers are tough, though. Very good all-around team. But I think the Knicks seem to be healthy if they stay that way. And OKC was tremendous. I mean, SGA,
Yeah.
I love how he just took the ball to the rack early and often in the first half, set the tone, and no complaining like that other superstar on the other team who does a little too much barking and not enough, taking the ball to the rim.
SGA gets way too many calls. The guy, you breathe on the guy and he gets a foul
give
call.
me a break.
It's
This guy's
terrible.
He's slithering his way into the, and then he's creating contact. The guy's a genius.
The guy wouldn't survive 5 minutes in the WNBA where it's like orange is the new black. Patrick McEnroe, always appreciate you, my friend. All the best with the coverage on TNT. The Sirius XM radio show on Mad Dog Radio. Catch it 7 a.m. on Saturday morning, 7 a.m. Eastern. Also on the Sirius XM radio app. We'll talk again soon, my friend.
Great habit. Great being out with you guys. Chuck, big fan.
Patrick,
all the best. All the best.
I'll
guys.
be watching your the red zone of tennis of the French
You
Open.
got it.
That
The
sounds like
red
fun.
zone on the red clay, baby.
We're
There
coming.
you go.
We're coming back. Coming up in 10 minutes, we wrap things up with some odds and ends. Let's continue a little baseball conversation. Coming out of our conversation with Patrick McEnroe. Chuck Todd is hanging out, guest co-host for the show today. So Walker Buehler gets tossed last night in the third inning. And look, I mean, we've talked about it quite a bit on this show. We haven't talked about it as much in the last few weeks. This idea of the ABS and the challenge system. I actually went out to a AAA game out here in Las Vegas a few weeks back and actually got to see it in person, the challenge system, Chuck. How do you feel about the idea of either a challenge system or just automating balls and strikes? I'll tell you a funny story real quick. I had Bobby Valentine on 10 years ago. Bobby Valentine was on my NBC Sports Radio show. And he came on the show. It was a weekend show. And he made headlines at the time saying there needed to be a laser grid strike zone. And people, no, but when he said it at the time, people laughed at him. People were like, Bobby's lost his mind. Poor Bobby Valentine. And now Bobby looks like a genius because 10 years later, here we are. And now everybody's talking about an ABS system.
First of all, I'm a big Bobby Valentine fan because of that. Like, he's always been, a thinking man. He's always been a little bit more, he throws the man clearly reads. That's all I'm going to say, right?
Yeah.
And not everybody in this business reads. Some don't, but I always love me a good baseball man that reads and not just about baseball. How do you not do this? We have the technology. I mean, it's like was watching the NFL with the absurdity of the chains. I say this as a high school football parent who was the chain gang the last single most fun thing I've done as a youth sports parent.
Wait, you were part of the chain gang? Really?
Oh, it's awesome.
God,
it's
I
awesome
wish I
because
had video of this.
It is fantastic because you're right there. You hear the play calls. I mean, by the way, high school football refs, those guys, they take a beating from parents and fans. You really earn the respect. But you're sitting there going, really, a chump like me is holding the chains, going to decide 1st and 10 or not, right? The accuracy when we know we have the technology to be pinpoint accurate. And with baseball, we're all watching it. We're all seeing the box. If you're watching on TV, it's actually now one of the weirder things when you go to games, you're like, I don't know.
The box?
Was that a striker? Yeah. I want my box, right? But this is one of those things where, baseball, I think the challenge system has been terrific. It is fast. You never, every once in a while it takes them a little bit longer, but not often. The NBA's got problems. Like, I don't trust the NBA to add more technical ways to stop the game. They stop the game enough. Ugh. So if we were talking about the
officiating
NBA,
is so bad in the NBA.
Correct.
Bro, as we talked about with Kurt Helin.
I am not there. I don't trust the NBA to know how to implement any of this crap. I trust baseball here. I think it's and by the way, it's amazing to me that ever since they instituted the box, I think these umpires are pretty good. right? I think they are pretty
Most
good.
of them are, and we have Dale Scott, who Dale Scott used to be a former big league umpire, and he comes on with us every now and then. And see, his beef with it is he still doesn't think they've perfected the box enough to the point that it's penalizing umpires who might actually be better than the percentages show.
Okay. I will say this. There is one type of pitch that I'm concerned about, right? Which is the front corner strikes, okay? On where I think that should be rewarded, okay? If you're able to just get into the strike zone and it's like, then your ball falls off the ledge, right? That's a strike. Sometimes in the box, it looks like it's low, right? That it comes in below the line. But if you had a 3D box, you would see that it probably tipped the corner. And to me, I look at it, I'm a believer that the strike zone is any part of it, you made it. Any part of that box, if you were able to get it in there on the front corner, then you pull it off. So if you told me there was a bit of a beef on that aspect of it, I accept that because I don't think we have fully figured that part out. But give me the ABS and the ump. I thought it worked really well in spring training. I was for it. And
it's
by the
quick.
way,
it's so quick. It's almost instant.
Look, I equate this with speed cameras or red light cameras. I know at first people hate them, but you know what? The most important reason why you should have them, because you cut down on the number of human interactions between civilians and police officers that could quickly escalate. I think being able to get rid of the traffic stop, I think the traffic stop needs to be eliminated, and the best way to eliminate it is cameras. And I think the basic traffic stop, speed traps, all that stuff is antagonistic to the viewer. And what you do is you take it away. And as much as I miss a good Earl Weaver argument on YouTube, which, by the way, if you ever want to get lost on YouTube, go look at Earl Weaver arguments. They're fantastic. Lasorda's a distant second when it comes to that stuff.
Aaron Boone is today's version of that. He's about as close as you get. Bad.
But the fact of the matter is we don't have a lot of these confrontations anymore, which is probably better for the game because we have more cameras. We have more ability to do this. I don't know why players are fighting this. I don't.
And it's some pitcher, and it's a little bit of both sides. You get some pitchers that are because the art of framing goes away in that instance, and all framing is fooling the umpire.
Okay, but let me ask you this: do you miss the fact that we no longer have catchers giving signs? That it's all done automated with the earpiece.
Yeah, I do. I kind of miss it. I'm also the guy that misses 3.5-hour baseball games. And Brian Kenny Brian Kenny yells at me all the time because I'm the guy that's like, I miss 3.5 hours.
No, only time I want a 3.5-hour game is if it's game 7. That's the only time I want a 3.5-hour game.
We're coming back. We got odds and ends right around the corner. A few quick hitting topics to get to. Chuck Todd hanging out with us on Sports Wrap. Don't go anywhere. Just about time to put the wraps on this baby for a Wednesday. Thursday's show will include David Aardsma, former big league reliever, our closer. Baseball talk with him every Thursday on the show. Full recap of Knicks-Pacers as well. Couple of reminders, Sports Wrap with Jason Page, the podcast version of this show, available every day wherever you get your podcasts. Make sure to subscribe, Apple Podcasts, YouTube Podcasts, iHeartRadio, TuneIn, Apple Podcasts, Odyssey, Amazon, anywhere you get a podcast, you can get this show. You could also watch us on Spotify, this show, available on Spotify, also on YouTube. If you have not subscribed to our YouTube channel yet, it's called the Sports Wrap with Jason Page YouTube channel. Very easy to remember. Go and subscribe today. Sports Wrap shorts are there. Clips from the show, clips not from the show. Sometimes everything doesn't fit into the show. We put it there for you. It's the Sports Wrap with Jason Page YouTube channel. And without any further delay, ladies and gentlemen, time for some odds and ends. Odds and ends, Chuck Todd. Feels weird saying that. Odds and ends, Chuck Todd. Game 1 of the Eastern Conference Finals, a dominating effort. It's Bobrovsky time. It's that time of the year. The Florida Panthers get the best out of their goaltender. They dominate Game 1 in North Carolina, against the Hurricanes. 5-2 the final. Florida takes a 1-0 lead. They reclaim home ice advantage in Game 1 of that series. Thoughts?
Other than it seems like the NHL, every year some team from Florida has to be the new dominant power, right? If it's not the Tampa Bay Lightning, it's now the Florida Panthers run. My favorite, look, I'm bandwagoning the Panthers as a Miami boy. My favorite aspect here is that Sebastian, the Ibis, the mascot for the Hurricanes, said there's only one, that there are, we only root for Hurricanes in the state of Florida. So he was with the Panthers mascot. So I thought that was a nice little touch. By the way, University of Miami last year won the Division III hockey championship. So hockey in South Florida is only growing more popular. So yay Panthers.
Yeah,
and the Carolina eliminated my buddy Ovechkin. So, screw them.
Fair enough. Caitlin Clark and the Indiana Fever opened up the WNBA season this weekend to 2.7 million viewers in their matchup against their arch rival, the Chicago Sky. Now compare that to the Las Vegas Aces going up against the New York Liberty in a WNBA Finals rematch that only did half the number of 1.3 million viewers. Now, you come from the world of TV. You were probably judged at some point in your career, having been the host of Meet the Press, on how many people were watching on Sunday mornings. What does it say to you that Caitlin Clark, still this huge draw, doing double the number that last year's finals teams did?
As a good numbers guy on the political side of things, everything is relative. Tell me what that number was without Caitlin Clark before she ever entered the WNBA. How often were they getting 1 million plus viewers for regular season matchups? So, we can sit here and say, oh, look, she's getting twice the number. But what has she done? She's raised the floor. And let's be honest, it is a better game. The game has really improved. This is now a very athletic league. Women's basketball has become more athletic over the last decade as more athletes are coming into the league. So I'm actually impressed that number without Caitlin Clark. If that's your new floor, over 1 million in a regular season matchup, you've got to feel really good about the future of the WNBA.
Yeah, you certainly do. Odds and ends, NFL owners approving their players to go take part in flag football. I said this yesterday on the show, and I'm curious to get your thoughts in the final couple minutes here. I think there's only downside here.
Of course there is only downside.
This is so dumb.
We're going to see it.
Yes.
Somebody's going to rupture an Achilles.
Thank you.
We know it's going to come. It's going to happen. And then nobody's ever going to do this again, right? Like, look, I get it. And this is all about 28. I don't believe, this is one of those, the way the Olympics works, if you're the host country, you can sort of add a sport and you get to do it. It was skateboarding, I think, got added by the Japanese, right? So, and I'm surprised that made it to the Paris Olympics, and maybe it will. Skateboarding will become. I have a feeling flag football is. Let's see if it makes it to the 2032 Olympics, and then we'll. But I'm with you. There's only downside on this. But do this. Let's just have recently retired players, right? I'm for that. You know who would, I bet you, do really well out there still? Terrell Owens, okay?
Yeah.
Or guys like that. Give me guys who just, retired.
Chad Johnson, Ocho Cinco, yeah.
Right, they'd still have some gas in the tank, but they're not ready to take the hits anymore. I think that's the, if I were the NFL, that's what I'd be encouraging. I'd be encouraging the recent retired players because you do need some star power. I get that. You want to bring some star power to this. You want to get some attention because they really do want this to grow. But I think, look, my guess is they're doing the current players because the current players wanted to do it.
And heaven forbid if they were to ever lose, Chuck.
And the owners couldn't say no to that because that would look a little too, we control you, right? So it's clear to me the players wanted this. That's why they're doing it.
It's just, I don't know. I'm surprised the owners acquiesce to it, but I guess, they just can't resist
It's a player-run league now.
marketing.
Even the NFL, even the dictatorship that is the NFL, is realizing that the players have a lot more power than they want to admit.
That's going to do it for us. Chuck, this was a blast. I cannot thank you enough. Thank you for taking part in it.
Hey, it was fun. I'm glad to spout off on my half-baked sports takes. I appreciate it.
The Chuck Todd cast, catch it. Catch his YouTube channel as well. Thank you to our guest, Patrick McEnroe. Thank you to Kurt Helin. Thanks to you for watching. We'll see you all back here on Thursday.